Welcome to Eat Well, Travel Better, the Business of Food Travel podcast with Eric Wolf and Ashi Vale, where we help you become a better industry professional by gaining inspiration from some of the world's most successful people in the food and beverage tourism industry. With each episode, we meet these leaders and examine their secrets of success. We reveal the obstacles and challenges they have faced, along with their solutions and triumphs, and give you ideas and inspirations for many of the same business issues that you may be facing as well. And now for today's episode. Welcome. I'm Eric Wolf, and I'll be your host today for episode 39 of Eat Well, Travel Better, the Business of Food Travel podcast. And joining me today is co-host Ashi Vale. Today, we'll be speaking with Kathiana Lejeune. Kathiana is a young, determined, and ambitious author, professional, and scholar. A graduate from the George Washington University with a degree in political management and global advocacy, Kathiana has just published her first book, The Power of the Palate, Through the Great Exchange, which explores the relationship between food tourism and gastrodiplomacy. Kathiana loves to share how exchanging a meal fosters relationships and shifts our perspectives of different cultures. For her, food is the new currency of diplomacy. Welcome, Kathiana.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Ashi.
Welcome, Kathiana. Here at the World Food Travel Association, we're all about gastrodiplomacy. So we're really looking forward to hearing your stories and your work with it. Can you tell us about what inspired you to write your book, The Power of the Palate?
So I remember attending a meeting at work where I was inspired to write a sizzle reel for a show called The Taste of Peace at the World Table. It basically came from after watching Jada Pinkett Smith Red Table Talk and seeing how she would bring up different topics or controversial topics, and they would have a discussion around it. And it would be a warm conversation. And I wanted to mimic that, but from a global and cultural standpoint, and bringing two people that are well respected in their societies from two conflicting cultures, so like Haiti and Dominican Republic, Pakistan and India, or Pakistan and Bangladesh, and bringing them together and fusing a dish together and giving a brief history of the two cultures and seeing where the misunderstanding was, basically having someone from Brookings Institute or the U.S. Institute of Peace to give steps or strategies that they can take as people to resolve their differences while their governments decide what it is that they will do. So this topic came to me, and I ended up talking to my mentor from Georgetown University, Eric Kozner. And he said to me, well, if you can't do a show out of it, because I did propose it to my boss, and at the time, this was not something that they'd be interested in pursuing. So he told me, if I can't do a show, then why not write a book? And when I sat down with him and I shared this idea or concept, he said to me, well, Kathiana, why don't you title it The Power of the Palate? And I told him that our palates are only powerful through one of life's greatest exchanges, and that's sharing a meal. So that's how this concept came to me.
That sounds wonderful, Kathiana, and we couldn't agree more. As you wrote your book, can you talk about some of the challenges that you faced and how you overcame them?
Writing a book is different than writing a thesis. And I feel that one of the things that made it either harder or easier was finding people to interview for the different sections that I have in the book that speaks on cultural identity or tradition or diplomatic relations, and how food has served as a catalyst to form relations or help in a negotiation process, along with people who has left their careers to now devote time to cultural diplomacy and seeing what does that look like, and sharing those stories throughout the book. And because it's different than writing a thesis or a research paper, I feel like the hardest part was finding my voice and allowing people to see Kathiana or hear Kathiana throughout the book, along with like hearing the stories of those that I share throughout the book and taking away the strategies and more practical and tangible process and steps of forming relationships around food and allowing businesses to be formed around food, or acknowledging it when you travel. That's an essential part of traveling and the motivations behind why people travel.
And it's interesting because you put your book out on Indiegogo, I think, for funding, and that did really well for you. So how did you decide to do that with your book? And tell us a little bit about that process, because I think it's not something that a lot of people know a lot about.
So my publishing company, New Degree Press, for first-time authors and for some second-time authors, the way that they help you get off the ground because it's your first book is through running this campaign. And so we pre-recorded a video of me talking about the book, mentioning different individuals that I've gotten a chance to interview, the different concepts that I would approach throughout the book or address throughout the book, as well as who the book is for and who is my audience. And so that was the planning for the video in itself. And then as far as the content, it was just giving people a feel of what the book would look like and how it would come together. And this crowdsourcing campaign, those who pre-ordered a copy of my book, what makes it so special is that they've joined me on this journey so that I can publish. I've raised the funds to publish my paperback, hardcover, and audiobook. And in this process, they are also helping me pick my cover. It does come to me at the end of the day of selecting which one will be my final cover, but they're joining me on that process. They read my introduction early. They supply me with feedback with my manuscript, and it just makes things easier just because you're getting a firsthand experience with an author as well as with your viewer and your audience. So I feel like it makes the writing process better. But this was all through the help of my publishing company, New Degree Press.
And while you were writing the book, who did you have in mind in terms of an audience? Who were you thinking about would be reading this book?
Throughout the book, there's a lot of personal stories in it. So I feel like I'm talking to family or I'm talking to friends. But then there's parts where I feel like I'm talking to someone I would aspire to be. So one of my favorite shows is Madam Secretary. And I love how Tia Leone portrays the role as Secretary of State of the United States. But the only part that I felt like was missing was the food aspect of it. I feel like they should have had more episodes that included that or allowed that to be part of the negotiation process before sanctions takes place or whatever it may be. But throughout the writing process, who I would address or who I would think that I'm talking to, and my writing is very much so as a conversation because this is the start of a discussion of how this will change our world. When I talk to my cohort, who's very much like-minded as me as far as like international relations and how we should approach it and the use of food being a soft power and addressing it from that aspect, but also not per se dumbing it down, but using common terms where everyone won't get lost. And so I still feel like although someone who they're a doctor or not a chef or not an international relations person or not a travel expert or interested in travel or other cultures, they still will find meaning in this book because just as James Beard said, food is that universal common ground that brings us together. So I've also kept that in mind too. And throughout the recipes that I share in the book, personal stories from those that I interviewed, and also like research that supports this idea and concept, I tried to make it common and I tried to make it relatable. So when you're reading a book, you're not lost. And maybe something will inspire you to take this on and challenge yourself to host dinners and allow your home to be an embassy.
Kathiana, for our audience who's interested in learning about gastrodiplomacy and how food could help improve conflict resolution, where would they be able to purchase the book?
It will be available on Amazon and Barnes & Nobles and all other bookseller websites come January 2021. Those who pre-ordered during the crowdsourcing campaign, they will be able to get theirs this December.
Now, writing a book is, some people have likened it to giving birth to a child because it is truly a huge, huge effort. We published a book here in the association, Have Fork Will Travel, and it was probably the most complicated and arduous task we've ever done, but also one of the most rewarding. What would you say that you've learned through this whole process of writing and publishing and launching your first book?
It's definitely one of the biggest challenges of my life. There's days where I do feel like I might get a stomach ulcer from this entire process. But I feel like when I step back, I have to remember that this is my passion project. So this is something that I've longed for. I have a passion to share with the world how food can make this impact, how we shouldn't lose our traditions when assimilating into a new place, how all these things are important. I wrote this note during the book writing process, and I said, just as a song that is never written is never sung, a book that has captivating and compelling stories that goes unfinished or is never exposed will never be read. That's what pushed me to finish writing and to share, because no one will get these stories. I feel like if you've taken the time to initiate the step to start writing and then sharing it on social media, I feel like that's what all made it even more real during my writing process. I was encouraged to put it on my social media. Hey, like, this is what I'm working on. Stay tuned for the link once I submit my manuscript to a publishing company and they accept. And then once they accept it, it's like, oh, this is happening and this is going to get off ground. And so it's definitely challenging, but also a passion. And I truly see myself building my career around it and doing so much more.
Kathiana, you've been doing this for a while now, and you clearly are very passionate about it. Can we look at it from a 30,000 foot level and talk about the industry? You had mentioned, especially now as we deal with the pandemic, there's so many concerns in the food and tourism industry and what that future might look like for so many people. How would you describe that challenge right now? And do you have any solutions for how we could overcome it?
I feel like this is less of a challenge for us if we think about it. More and more people during this time of quarantine have cooked countless recipes. And I think if we're able to promote different cultures or like give them a taste of a culture, whether it be creating a box and sending that out and hosting different Zoom cooking challenges or cooking with a chef and opening up that opportunity, people can still get that travel component from their own home. Of course, it would be hard to find certain ingredients and pieces to that, but still giving someone the chance to have that. And because people are more inspired to cook, I think it was in June or May that the stores ran out of yeast and flour because so many people were cooking bread. I think that if we open up that portal and tap into it a little more or deeper, that we can open up this virtual arena for people to experience a different culture or a different country through their cuisine. Of course, it's a challenge and there's things to think through, but I think that it's possible.
And what's wonderful now is that because of the proliferation of online cooking classes with hosts around the world, people are now able to have that experience without having to spend as much to travel there.
Right.
So it's a great way to affordably connect with another culture. And like you said, travel from your own home kitchen, which is not something that might have happened or might have happened much later had the pandemic not affected us. So yeah, definitely some silver linings.
Yes. And also in another side of that too, I know like when I would replicate dishes that I would try overseas when I would travel, it pushes me or it makes me want to go there again. Or when I would try a recipe from somewhere that I haven't been, I'm more inspired or more inclined to go. Maybe when things open back up again, people will be more than willing to go, especially if they're trying these dishes at their home. It helps with the perspective and the assimilation part once they get there.
Kathiana, I'd like to talk with you a little bit about how you got in the mindset to write the book in the first place, because you're quite young, but you're also quite accomplished. And someone at your age who's already written their first book, which is just absolutely a huge accomplishment, and you have quite the prestigious academic background as well. When I talked with you a while ago, you had told me a little bit about your educational journey and growing up in Atlanta and the choice of schools that you made. Could you talk about what happened in your life? Because I'm thinking that there might be some inspiration there for people of a similar age, that they might be able to draw some inspiration and maybe pursue similar paths that might help them in their career path too.
I grew up in a single parent home in Decatur, Georgia, near Atlanta. I remember in seventh grade, I stopped going to marching band practice because I found out about the opportunity of early college programs in our state. And the high school that was in my county, they were partnered with Georgia State University, which would allow me to graduate with an associate's degree and a high school diploma and get the entire college experience because we would be full-time students on Georgia State Perimeter College's campus. And so I stopped doing band and focused more on my studies. Well, of course, I still were in other involvements, but being in the band was very time consuming. And if I wanted to get the extra A or the plus added to marking point, then I had to decide what it is that I would sacrifice so that I could succeed. I did apply. I did write my letter of interest and got my recommendation letters, and I got in. And being at DeKalb Early College Academy was quite a journey in itself. I feel like my first 2 years as a freshman and sophomore were the most challenging years of my life. I don't think anything thus far has topped it due to the rigor of the courses. They instilled in us on our very first day there that we are scholars, we aren't students, and we addressed our faculty and staff as professor or doctor if they were a doctor, because that's just how life is. They brought us to this new level of professionalism. Of course, we wore uniforms, but that sacrifice was only for 2 years. And then moving on to Georgia State Perimeter College, what was Georgia Perimeter College, I got the chance to become a senator, and I got involved with the Georgia State Capitol and started paging and started tapping into what I wanted to be there. I think that's kind of where I found my it, although like I still wanted to go to law school, but it gave me a great foundation as far as how to communicate with others, how to be this professional woman post school, the importance of a solid education and moving forward in that, and just having those relationships and connections that I formed on that campus. It was on that campus that I too saw the importance of first generation Americans being able to assimilate and be welcomed, and what it looks like when a college has international programs that allow students to share their story, allow students to be vocal, and then graduating Georgia State and moving on to Marymount University, seeing how international students is what made Marymount Marymount. You'd sit in classes near someone from Saudi, you sit in classes near someone from Peru or Argentina, and you'd form relationships with them. There's so many of my friends that I made throughout school that we still connect, and they're probably back in their home countries, but we haven't lost touch. I'm grateful for the faculty at Marymount University as well, because while at Marymount, I was able to secure some nice internships, whether it be at the U.S. House of Representatives or AARP, or doing a campaign in the summer elections and being an intern for that. And so that was the start of who Kathiana is, and finding my different passions and tapping into places that I don't think that I would be able to if my life did not take that path. And then moving on to George Washington University, the Graduate School of Political Management, and taking the global advocacy approach and seeing what it looks like when we do these global residencies to engage with partners and leaders and thought leaders, and seeing the behind the scenes of forming those relationships and the importance of that, and the businesses behind it, and being these professionals who are able to communicate effectively and create strategies for business. And so that was quite my journey. I'm also very grateful and thankful for like my mom and my sister and family, and of course the community that I've been able to establish in the DC metro area.
Got leftover, unused and unwanted foreign currency? If you're in the UK, dig it out and visit bidwedge.com. Bidwedge makes it easy to change your unwanted cash currency back into British pounds. Enter the amount into the Bidwedge calculator, see what you'll be paid, post the cash, and watch the money appear in your bank account. It's easy to do. And every transaction is insured. Visit bidwedge.com and make that unwanted foreign currency work for you. Bidwedge.com. Easy to do.
while at Marymount, I was fortunate to find a church community that has supported me through everything, the book writing process and everything else, and helping me find different internships or allowing me to have informal interviews with leaders and companies or corporations I'd be interested in working at. And so it's been quite a journey, but also through every challenge, it's been nice to overcome it and surpass it and to look back and be proud of making it. Not everything has been easy, but there's hurdles and you have to jump or else you'll fall.
Speaking of looking back, Kathiana, what advice would you give yourself back in, I mean, it hasn't been that long now, but, if you were to advise yourself as a younger person, what would you have said?
I feel like I questioned myself a lot. And if I could tell younger me, it would just be go with it. Stop being so scared. Like, you've already jumped and swam this far. You might as well keep going until you get to shore. Go and run with it and not question your decisions or seeking affirmation to pursue what it is that you want in life.
Well, Kathiana, you've really done a lot in your very young age, and you really should be proud of everything that you've accomplished. What do you hope might happen after the launch of the book? I mean, do you have a plan for what's next, or what doors do you hope might open because of the book that you've written?
I truly don't have a next plan, but I think it would be cool if I were to teach a few seminars on how gastro diplomacy and culinary tourism would work, and running simulations in a classroom or in a seminar and seeing the outplay of it, or doing TED Talks and allowing these conversations to start happening amongst people is something that I envision in the future. Maybe applying for a job at the U.S. State Department with their Cultural Affairs group, which helps with first-time Americans or first-generation Americans and helping them to assimilate.
Well, I look forward to your first TED Talk. Sign me up for that.
Yeah, that would make me super excited.
Kathiana, can you share some of the challenges that you have experienced or see first-generation Americans going through and how you might have overcome those? I know you spoke about, building a community and having a community. Is there something you could share for others in similar situations?
I actually shared this in the book, and it was accepting my heritage. So my family is from Haiti, a few family members from Dominican Republic as well. And growing up, first of all, my grandmother did not speak any English at all. Her English was fine, I love you, and 3 girls, 5 boys, which basically tells you about her kids. And so growing up, Creole and French was my first set of languages. Some Spanish, because that's what she would yell or chastise in. If my mom were to come and pick me up from school, or if I were to bring lunch, it would be Haitian cuisine, or my mom would speak to me in Creole, and I would try to avoid this, or try to be cool like my friends and want to be just a regular American. Stop embarrassing me or exposing this side of me, which I'm not proud of. But it wasn't until 6th grade, post earthquake, and constantly hearing stories and looking into it myself that I became proud of my Haitian culture, and I celebrated it and wanted to invite others in on that. And so my advice to those who are first generation is not to hide your culture or hide who you are, because while your family can depart the island or the country, that part of you never leaves you. And you can try to cover it. You can try to change your accent or not want to learn the language or not want to eat or partake in that food because of how it looks or how it smells. But do know that there's others around you who embrace it, and you should love it because that's who you are. And that is your identity, regardless if you like it or not. That's my advice, is to not be ashamed of who you are. If anything, educate yourself and educate others around you about your traditions and norms and customs, and you'll find the fun in that. There's so many times now where I have challenges with my Jamaican friends or Trini friends, and I feel like in grade school, we'd hide that. And it's not until now that they post something on social media, oh, I'm Bohemian or Happy Independence Day X. And so all these years, and I did not know that you were of this ethnicity or this group. And so it's just interesting and to embrace it while you're young. And that will help embody who you are and also like change the people around you. I feel like most people, if they get a chance to experience a different culture, their perspective and perception of that culture shifts because it's not what they thought it was. And that's your opportunity to be an ambassador of your country and share it with the world.
There seems to be a movement of people being proud of their own cultures and really celebrating them, whether they're national holidays or national dress or their historic languages and things like that, their foods, of course. I think that maybe when I was younger, it was more common for people to try and blend in. You wanted to be American, right? So wherever you came from, you wanted to drop the accent, drop the food, eat nothing but hamburgers and pizza, right? And be
Right.
that true American. But I think what I'm seeing all around the world is that people are increasingly proud of their own cultures. And I think it's absolutely delightful that you've embraced your Haitian background. We have an ambassador from Haiti here in the association, and she has brought some of the interesting insights about what's happening in the cuisine in the country. We're a little bit aware of what's happening there. And I think there's really tremendous opportunity to establish a bit of a national culinary brand, if you will, for Haitian cuisine, because I think it's one of those things that people really don't know that much about. People have heard of
Right.
Jamaican jerk and things like that, but
Yes.
what's Haitian food? And so now the time has come.
Yes, and I that excites me that you all do have an ambassador. Hopefully I can add to that as well. But Haitian food is amazing. And I can't believe that as a kid I would give my grandma or mom so much headache over eating a meal because now I try to replicate it. And there are certain dishes that I haven't mastered yet, or it doesn't taste quite the same. But I feel like, especially with my late grandmother, if I could go back in time, I probably wouldn't give her such a hard time of eating things like du and legume, which is a very traditional Haitian dish.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that, Kathiana? We'd love to learn a little bit more about Haitian
Yes,
cuisine. So
yes.
what is the dish that you mentioned and what are some of the other traditional Haitian dishes?
So du avec pois is basically rice and beans. It's made certain people use coconut milk as their base, and others just use a broth derived from this thing called épice, which is basically a spice blend. In Hispanic culture, it's referred to as sofrito. In our language, we call it épice. And so it's basically you take onion, bell pepper, or green onion, garlic, habanero pepper, salt, and black coarse pepper, and you blend it. And it makes this nice green paste. And some people add parsley to it or cilantro. Sometimes my family leaves out the cilantro, other times we include it. But it makes this lovely base for when you have to fry the beans. You add it to the beans, and then you add your coconut milk, or you add your stock if you don't want to use coconut milk. And you wash your rice and you add your rice to it. And once that boils, it comes into this beautiful, fluffy, and light rice and beans dish. And then legume is basically a stew that's made with vegetables, root vegetables, so carrots, you use eggplant, there's a vegetable called chayote. And you boil these things together and you basically blend it and you chop up your carrots and you add your meat to it. So my family, we eat chicken more than beef. So we use chicken, others use beef, and you just make this beautiful blend. I feel like if I were, recording myself cook it, I'd be able to give more detail. But it's a lovely dish when you put it together. Other families would make a bean puree and rice, basmati rice to have on the side. And of course, you have fried plantains to go with it. And as one of my uncles referred to, salad decoration on the side to make the plate pretty. And so that's one popular Haitian dish that you'd find anywhere in Haiti that you go. Another one is this dish called banan peze en griot, which basically it's fried plantains with fried pork shoulder. And you clean it with lime and sour oranges, and it marinates overnight with the épices, and then you fry it up and you make the side pickles, where basically it's shredded cabbage, carrots, and habanero peppers. That's you add vinegar and lime to, and it's pretty spicy. But when you add it with the meat and the plantains, it balances everything out, and it's a mouthful of joy. But those are like two popular Haitian dishes. I feel like my favorite all-time Haitian dish is my mom's macaroni au gratin, which is our baked mac and cheese. You make a bechamel sauce and add other things to it. I don't have permission to share this recipe, so I can't, but you add other things to it and you bake it, and it has this nice crispy golden top and everything sticks together. Some people add bell peppers and onions and others don't, but my mom's is the best, and I truly can't find anyone else who makes it like her unless I make it myself. And so that and fritai, and I feel like all Haitian kids love fritai because it doesn't involve you eating rice, and it's just all fried foods. So we have fried plantain, we have a fried meat option, whether it be chicken wings or griot, which is what I just explained as the pork shoulder, or there's another fried option called basso, which is fried goat, and you have that along with this thing called marinade, which is basically fried dough. Like you make a flour mixture and you add épices to it and you add baking soda and you fry it and it clumps up and it's this beautiful thing. Or you take yucca root and you shred it and you add your épices and a little bit of water to it, and that mixture you fry it too. It's called akla. I feel like that's a popular thing that most families eat on Fridays, or like we do a Haitian style fish fry, which everyone loves and enjoys. That's a little bit of background of Haitian cuisine.
Oh, that was wonderful, Kathiana. This is what I love about food. And now I just want to travel to Haiti.
Yes. I'm hungry now thinking about it.
I know, lunch is about 3 hours away. That just doesn't seem fair. As we wrap up over here, you had mentioned to us this inspirational quote that you loved. And would you mind sharing that with our audience?
One of my favorite quotes is by Mother Teresa. It's peace begins with a smile. That's the first thing that people see. It is your first impression. It uplifts a room and can make most things better as when someone is smiling. It makes it warm and inviting, and you, in a way, feel welcome to pursue a conversation with someone. And I see that playing out in our world. I'm someone who loves to smile. I feel like I smile in most circumstances unless it's truly sad. And it's contagious because you start smiling and someone else starts smiling and maybe someone starts laughing, and it's like, well, what are we all smiling and laughing about? But the true beauties of life is just being happy and enjoying that human connection and being around other people.
I've seen smiles cut tension like a warm knife through butter. It's just, they can completely erase all of the coldness in a discussion and really set a new precedent for a relationship. I think if you can start off with a handshake and a smile, there's unlimited potential to go from there.
Yes, definitely.
Well, Kathiana, we need to wrap up for today, but it's been a real pleasure chatting with you. I am so excited about your potential in the future. You've done so much in your few years, and the culinary tourism industry and the gastrodiplomacy industry are so fortunate to have you working in our industry and lending your knowledge and your passion to everything we do. So thank you for that. And we look forward to working with you as well in our association. I'm sure there's going to be some projects that we can work on together in the future. So we'll stay in touch.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your thoughts, Kathiana. It was such a delight.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening today. The Eat Well, Travel Better podcast is brought to you by the World Food Travel Association, the world's leading authority on food and beverage tourism. Our mission is to preserve and promote culinary cultures through hospitality and travel. By doing so, we empower local communities and entrepreneurs with the knowledge and tools needed to reach new food lovers and gain a competitive edge. Founded in 2003, now each year we shepherd a community of 200,000 professionals in more than 100 countries. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram, and you can learn more about us, subscribe to our newsletter, and join our family at worldfoodtravel.org. Until next time, eat well and travel better.